Noah, who had stayed below deck ever since the ship has glided out of the forest, certainly didn't know she was there. Or rather, he suspected it. But for him, it had become two sides of the same coin. He hadn't wanted it to be like this. He would have preferred it if the ship hadn't drifted into the mountain, and that Anna weren't there. If he'd been able to help her, he would have done so, but he couldn't. When he heard her shout, he rose to go up. He didn't want to. It was perhaps the very last thing he wanted to do, but he had to. He owed it to her. He'd taken a couple of steps before he halted. In a few hours, the mountain would vanish. Soon the sea would cover the entire earth. Then he could go up. That was the way he had planned it, and that was still the way it was going to happen. He went back and sat down again. When Anna called for a second time, he put his head in his hands, but he did not go out. As soon as she realized that he wouldn't come, she went with the others to the top of the mountain. They sat down in the hollow. Anna got food out of her bag, and they began to eat. No one spoke. Everyone took longer over the meal than normal. The sea was a mere 5 yards below them now. What had been a long, continuous mountain ridge an hour ago was now a string of small islands. On the nearest one, they could see people sitting just like them, huddled on the island's highest point, while the waves beat against the land just below them. That was all. The rest was sea. Vast and grey, the sea lay all around them. Its glinting surface stretched away on all sides, gently curving toward the horizon, beneath the sky's thick, dark cloud layer. The changes had been so many and so great, and had come in such a short space of time, that it was only now Anna fully realized where they were. That sense of location that always tells us where we are, even when we're not thinking about it, that seldom allows us to be surprised, even when, sunk deep in thought, we get up to one end of the day and go over and look out the window, had become disrupted in Anna over the past few days. If she looked down for a moment and thought about something else, she would get the same surprise each time. She lifted her head again. Is this where we are? It wasn't that she thought she was somewhere else, just that she had assumed, quite unconsciously. When she glanced up, it was the valley she'd expected to see, or the summer farm, or the waterfall, or even the mountain from the day before. But not this. All of them sitting out at sea, eating. The baby had gone to sleep, and Rachel put him on the blanket between them. Everyone sat there looking at him. Rachel smiled. "Isn't he lovely?" she said. She leaned forward and kissed him gently on the cheek. Around them, dusk was falling. In the western horizon, the clouds glimmered weakly in the light of the setting sun. They had moved right into the middle and made a ring of luggage around them. The sea was 6 feet below them now. It was totally calm. They saw no movement in it, not even a wave. Yet it rose. It rose quiet, noiselessly. "Yes, he is lovely," Anna said. "I've never been so proud of anyone as I was when you gave birth to him." "Haven't you?" said Rachel, smiling again. She placed her hand on Jirak's knee. "I think I screamed the most dreadful things at Mum. Luckily I can't remember what they were." She looked at her mother. "Can you?" Anna smiled. "It's all part and parcel," she said. Then there was silence. Shortly afterward, the first ripple came lapping in towards them. It didn't recede, but just rolled on, and seemed to well slowly up as it mingled with a ripple that came stealing in from the other direction. They crept closer together. Rachel lifted the baby and held him to her. Jarek put his arms around her. "Is he sleeping?" whispered Anna. Another ripple washed in between them. Rachel shook her head. "He's awake. He's looking at Jarek." Javon stood up. Anna turned her head and glanced the same way. Perhaps 15 yards away lay the ship, black in the greyish dusk. It was drifting toward them. Anna looked down. Water covered the entire mountain now. All was sea. But the ship was approaching. Could Noah have changed his mind? Was he going to pick them up after all? Of course he was going to pick them up. The boy was here. The boy was here. "Noah!" she shouted. "Dear Noah, we're in danger!" Noah had been sure it was all over when he heard her sudden cry. If he waited a bit longer, he would never again be able to hear her voice. That was the easiest, the most sensible thing. At the same time, he wanted her to know that he knew what he was doing. When he rose up to go, his wife held him back. "Don't go up there," she said. "Please, wait an hour, then you can go up, but not now, my dear." He shook himself free of her and went up the steps to the top deck, bent his head beneath the low roof and went aft. The ship was 10 yards off when Noah came out. They saw him quite clearly. He was dressed in white, and his skin was white, and he stood in the stern looking down at them. "Noah!" Anna shouted. "You must save us! Save us, Noah!" Noah remained motionless when he stood. He just stared at them. Anna took the baby from Rachel and raised him above her head so that he could see. He saw. When, immediately afterward, Anna laid the child to her breast and turned away, she was no longer despairing or angry or scared. All of these feelings had vanished into a great calm. They were going to die, and Noah would live on with the memory of what he had done. Soon after, Noah also turned on his heel, moved down the deck, and was gone. He did not return, and slowly the ship drifted past them into the night. Nobody spoke. Anna looked down at the baby. He gazed at her with his placid dark eyes. She handed him to Rachel and sat down. Suddenly Javan burst out laughing. "Well, I never thought I'd live to see that," he exclaimed. Everyone laughed. When the laughter had died out, nothing more was said for a long time. They sat silently staring out into the darkness as the water rose around them. Rachel held the baby tightly to her breast. When the water was up to the waist, she glanced at her mother. Her mother smiled back. "Is he asleep?" she whispered. Rachel shook her head. "I'm sorry about that," she said. Gently, she pushed the baby down and held him under the water. She looked at her mother the whole time. "I'm sorry about that," she said again. And then I'm going to read the first page of this book called My Struggle. For the heart, life is simple. It beats for as long as it can, then it stops. Sooner or later, one day, this pounding action will cease of its own accord, and the blood will begin to run towards the body's lowest point, where it will collect in a small pool, visible from outside as a dark, soft patch on ever-whitening skin. As the temperature sinks, the limb stiffens, and intestines drain. These changes in the first hours occur so slowly and take place with such inexorability that there is something almost ritualistic about them, as though life capitulates according to specific rules, a kind of gentleman's agreement to which the representatives of death also adhere, inasmuch as they always wait until life has retreated before they launch their invasion of the new landscape. By which point, however, The invasion is irrevocable. The enormous hordes of bacteria that begin to infiltrate the body's innards cannot be halted. Had they but tried a few hours earlier, they would have met immediately resistance. However, everything around them is quiet now, as they delve deeper and deeper into the moist darkness. They advance on the harassed channels, the crypts of Liebokyn, the Isle of Langerhans. They proceed to Bowman's capsule in the Rennes, Clark's column in the Spinalis, the black substance in the mesencephalon, and they arrive at the heart. As yet, it is intact, but deprived of the activity to which this whole construction had been designed. There is something strangely desolate about it. Like a production plant that workers have been forced to flee in haste, or so it appears. The stationary vehicle shining yellow against the darkness of the forest. The huts deserted, a line of fully loaded cable buckets stretching up the hillside. Thank you very much.